lots of people in the chat here. Wheel Guy with a hi. Lawrence S. Man, Mr. SPDTLB is on here. Nina, Luga, Ride Along, Paul, Bart Johnson. What's going on, Bart? Cheery Boat, Darren. Look at this music down. This is really, really intense. How are we all doing this evening? All right. You missed this music, Taylor. Yeah, I used to have this at the end of my videos. So, yeah, there's a little bit of a nostalgic action for me there as well. Wow, lots of people tuning in from everywhere. How am I sounding? It sounds really loud on my end. Wow, music is loud. Sorry, we can't hear. Right. Music is down. Music is down. I apologize. Yeah, so it's been a pretty interesting last couple of weeks. Had a kid. All of us got influenza, except for the baby, thank goodness. But my son, myself, my wife. My wife actually had it while she was delivering and going through labor, which was intense. Yeah, but we're here. We're back doing the live stream. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this back here down to something a little lower in the background. Stream is looking good so far. Looks like there's a slight delay, but that's okay. But guess what? I finally finished the live stream in the studio. So we get to look at that today, finally. We'll be able to do multicams over there, wireless cameras, all kinds of fun stuff. And it's going to be pretty sick. So I had a lot of issues. Even today I was trying to finish the setup. The whole idea is I want to be able to press a button, run over to the next room, and start showing you stuff in the studio. We can light stuff together. I can walk around the studio showing you things, answering questions. It'll be great instead of being tethered here to the desk. So I was thinking, I have and I have some links in the description to this stuff, but I have an AVIO 4K capture card that I've been using. Works great, and that's what you're watching right now. The G7 going into that thing, and then it going into OBS. So I was like, hey, I'll buy a cheap, capture card to go along with it and use that for the setup out in the studio, and run it via SDI into here. So first I got this guy, which let me go ahead and do something like that, hopefully. Oh, excuse me. So this thing's pretty cheap. It's like 140 bucks, all aluminum. You got your HDMI, you got your USB. So tried that. This thing only does up to or down to 30 frames per second. So that was pretty sad. And I could probably use it, this whole setup in 30 frames per second, and it would work great. Otherwise it worked well, but it wouldn't play nice with my 24 frames per setup cameras and all that. So then I got this thing. I asked on Twitter what else I could use that does 24 frames per second. A lot of people said this would do it. The Cam Link from Elgato. And same thing, HDMI to USB 3. Technically, it does do 24 frames per second, but this thing was super stuttery and just all over the place and a real mess. So this is probably going to be sent back. Maybe I'll keep it though. It's probably the best budget option if you want to do what I'm doing right now, which is camera, specifically in my case, the G7 into your computer for live streaming or video recording. Yeah, so $113. This will be in the description as well. But it was super choppy at 24 frames per second. I haven't tested it yet at 30. I'd imagine it's better. Since I'm Mr. as close to cinematic as possible, I want 24 frames per second, which I know a lot of gamers and people that this is built for really don't dig. So yeah, let's go ahead and switch back focus here. So what I ended up doing was a little ridiculous. And we're going to jump over there here in a second. So stick with me. It's going to be sick. Hopefully it works. Just set it up today. But what we're doing is the G7, this camera, and 3 other cameras, they're all on waiting for us in the other room, are all going into an Apollo recorder switcher. I've talked about it in the past. It's super expensive. There's other ways to do it, I know, but I use it to record 4 cameras simultaneously when I do my camera guides, and I have lots of camera angles. So everything's getting piped into that. So I'm running an SDI cable all the way out there from my G7 All the cameras are then plugged in out there, and then another SDI cable is coming all the way back in here and getting converted to HDMI and going into my, essentially another one of these little HDMI capture cards. And that's going through OBS to you guys. So now I can switch cameras in the other room and we can do all kinds of fun stuff. So let's take a trip, shall we? I'm going to switch over to OBS here. Hopefully it's all queued up and I'm going to hit something. You're going to see a little transition and hopefully I'll be able to get over to my seat in time and we'll take over in the studio. So here we go. Okay. Give me 1 second. Of course, I'm doing this for the first time live, and I think we might be having some audio issues here. So let me know what you guys hear. I hear lots of stuff. So 1 second. Check 1, 2. Do you guys hear a lot of echoey sounds, or is it just one audio source? Let me know what you hear. Just because. Yes, I was running as fast as I could. I've got a little setup here so I can see all his comments. You can hear me. Do you hear a crap ton of sounds? Or do you just hear one microphone? Just want to make sure we get that set up before I start talking and then forget about what's going on. A little quiet, okay? Let me try turning this up a little bit. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Too quiet. Can't hear. Low, quiet. Okay. Let me boost this up. Of course, I only got this going. All right. We're going to go up, 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 up. Check 1, 2. Check, 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 check. Hopefully that's better. Sound is too low now. Some funny elevator music. Okay. It's clean. Okay, good, 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 good. Tell me if it's clean in a second. I'm going to try to set up this wireless camera setup. And we can change our angles. So isn't that sweet? Just switch this up here. Oops. Yeah. So I'm trying to tune in to make sure I'm seeing what you guys see. All right. So yeah. Let me pull up the live chat again. There is a delay. Okay. Much better. Good. Okay. Is it still the sexy transition? Do you guys see me in the other room? Let's see. Video isn't on yet. Oh. Sound is good. Do you see my face right now? Oh, snap. All right, let me run over. Something's wrong with OBS, of course. 1 second. Ha! There we go. Okay. Good, good, good. Are we back? Are we back? I think we are. Let me switch over here. Nope, 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 nope. Apparently the chat's significantly far behind from here. So what I think just happened is OBS is that stupid transition, the sexy transition. That's supposed to end on its own and switch to this setup here. But the one time we go live with this setup, it doesn't. Okay. All right, so we're back. Let me change the power on this real quick. Again, first time doing this right now live, so you guys get to experience all the hiccups. But let's see if this works. We can switch, which is awesome. So there's the wide angle. Here I am in my tiny studio. Looks much bigger on this wide angle lens. And we can switch back to the main camera, GH5S. This is the GH5 with the Panasonic 12-14. That's the office. So that's how we're doing all of this. Everything is being piped through this right here, which I will switch to our live camera, which is wireless. using wireless HDMI. Let me tap over there. There we go. So A6500, I chose this camera for this because it should, if I switch it to autofocus continuous, oh man, lunch is getting me. There we go. So now it's working. I'll switch over here so you can see. What I have here is the A6500. We're running HDMI over into a little HDMI transmitter that is being fed into what's right in front of me that you guys can't see. We'll switch over there. So this whole setup, which a lot of this isn't necessary. Digital clipping sounds. Interference is not good. Audio buzzing a little bit. Okay, let me try turning this down. We'll get all this ironed out. I have been having little pop audio problems. Check. Is it bad? Every now and again. Okay, so we'll have to work on that. But let me switch to, so again, this is all powered with USB. So I'll switch to this angle. This one big honking USB battery is powering the camera, as well as the transmitter, which is going into this, which is right here. So now we're looking at the A6500. Let me try to focus that. Zoom in a little bit, I guess. So this is what I see. We've got our main camera angle, which I won't tap or else you'll lose this angle. We've got our wide angle. We've got the office, which you guys started. We did the whole live stream originally. And then here is this camera, hence the, you know, infinity loop. Let's see if our focus will work. There we go. And then I do have that Lilliput monitor that I've talked about in the past. Let's see. Is this my aperture? No, that's my shutter speed. There we go. Lilliput monitor, really dig it. And then the MixPre 3, that's being piped into here. So this is what's making the whole thing possible. And I'm trying to look up, definitely clipping. Okay. So let's go back. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing. So I am going to jump in here on my MixPre 3 outputs. Let's change our gain. -18. How's that sounding? Any better? Definitely clipping. Okay. So we're having some audio issues. This thing is great, but it definitely can get finicky. It's so in depth that you can kind of get lost in the menus. For instance, audio. There's a lot going on here, even though I have it. Whoops. Dadgummit. There we go. Even though I have it set, I mean, look at all this, it's crazy. Even though I only have it set to the 2 channels and analog. But there's a lot that this thing can do. And the reason I really like it is that I'm able to record 4 different cameras at the same time onto SSD drives. So let's switch back to this camera for a little bit. And I'll turn this off because I think this is causing issues somehow. When I do my camera guides, I usually have a camera right next to me, and I'm recording that camera's screen so I can show off the menu system. I'm recording 2 or more camera angles of myself, and then a close-up of the camera so I can show the buttons and whatnot. If I had each of these cameras on their own to go around, hit record on all of them, to monitor all of them, and make sure battery life and all that stuff is good, is a huge headache. So that's why I went with this system. To make sure that I can see every single camera that's being recorded on this little setup here, and then I can keep track of everything. I can make sure it's all recording, audio's good, all that kind of thing. So it's expensive. I've reviewed it. The link is in the description of this video. Make sure I'm still good here. All right, audio levels are low, so let's try bumping it back up. Let's go, let's split the difference. Hopefully that's better. Maybe that's a little too high. Check 1, 2, check. Audio is really low. Sorry about that, guys. And yeah, so that's why I have this thing. It's around $3,000, which if you're gonna do multicam stuff, will save you a ton of cash over time, especially if you have to re-record stuff because you messed up some card on a camera. So that's why I really dig this thing, and it's going to work great for live streaming too. So you can totally set this up for HD signals, so 1080p full HD, or you can do 2 full 4K recordings at the same time, which I think is pretty impressive. So that is the setup. We did it. Obviously, I have some bugs to figure out. When you touch the display in front of you, when the crackle was very noticeable. Okay, so we're having some sound issues. What I might have to do is pipe audio separately, because right now I'm running audio into, I'll switch back over, from the Mix Pre 3, which is right down here, over to the recorder, and I don't think, somewhere in there, something funky's going on. So I'm going to see if I can pipe the sound to the office separately, and maybe that will help us out. So I'm going to look into our comments here. You guys have any questions about the setup? Okay, regarding the audio, it's the wide angle camera. So over here it sounds bad. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe it's the audio's following the input. I'm just gonna stereo unbalanced. Let's go to our multicam setup. It's only recording channel A. So yeah, I'll have to iron that out. Crackle. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. I mean, I'm really excited about this, because if I can get this audio thing, which I think is the only problem I'm dealing with right now, if I can get that sorted out, we can do all kinds of awesome stuff. For instance, we can talk about key light setups. A lot of people asked me recently what I'm using for my key light. So, you know, right now we can talk about that. We can build stuff here together, do some lighting setups. And right on, Zach, we got a donation. Thank you very much, sir. $2. Can we just fix the stream for the rest of the video? Yes, we can. Is it still being a big problem for you guys? What am I using to switch again? We're using the Apollo recorder. Convergent Design makes it. It's rather expensive at $3 grand, but it's a recorder, multicam recorder. So it'll record 2 4K cameras or 4 HD cameras. Wireless HDMI system is the Nyrus. If you just search my channel for wireless HDMI, you'll find my review of it. I want to say it's under 200 bucks. And it works pretty well, as you guys saw. The audio, I'll maybe pull it up here, but the audio was having some issues there. We got our donation from something in Russian. I apologize, I can't read Russian, but he says, or she says, from Russia with love. Thank you very much, really appreciate that. You are the best. DIY builds, yeah, we could do all kinds of stuff, all kinds of stuff. What model is your Apollo? I don't know. It's just the Convergent Design Apollo recorder. Definitely need a second person to be your switcher. Yeah. Yeah, so the wireless HDMI, we talked about that just a second ago. Nyrus, Nyrus, N-Y-R-I-U-S. Or search my channel for wireless HDMI. You'll find the review. Which mic we are using. I'll pull it in here and back away. I don't know if you guys can see that. This is the Aperture Deity shotgun microphone, and I love this thing. It's very similar to an MK416 from Sennheiser, but way more affordable and just as well built, in my opinion. I've worked with both microphones. This one is pretty much the same. So yeah, I love that thing. Position this back up there. I've always wanted an NTG3, but never bought one, and this one is way less expensive. And I really dig it. Okay, the buzzing only happens occasionally. Okay, good. Remote control camera, yeah. Once I can figure out the audio thing, which when I turned this on, it was like I was seeing my levels get all crazy. So, what lens is on the G7 in the office over here? That is the. Let me know if you guys can't hear me anymore. But that is the Panasonic 14mm f2.5. Really, really dig that lens. It's pretty cheap too. I bought it used on eBay. 2 channels mono. What does my shirt say? This is some custom merch. We're gonna actually start doing some merchandise, and I'm just finalizing the designs. So this is one of them. Check it out. Isn't that nice? So let me know if you guys are interested. I've got this one in a couple different shirts, t-shirts, things like that. And then I have a bunch with my logo, because a lot of people have asked me for just the logo to make t-shirts. So I'm going to start doing some of that, which is pretty awesome. Really happy with how those turned out. I just need to make a couple tweaks, and maybe we can get those done around NAB, which is coming up. Let's see. Scrolling down here, I'm trying to find where we left off. So anyway, yeah, let me know if you guys want that. I know it's kind of a nerdy joke, but you know, it's pretty fun. And that's the Sigma 18 to 35 Cine. So yeah, shirts, hoodies, maybe some hats, mugs, I don't know. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. Let's see. 1080p stream looks nicer. Yes, for some reason my settings got a little funky, so we fixed that up, and it should be 1080p for you guys. At least it should be, hopefully. Yes, wireless lav ought to be used. That way I can pick this up, start walking around without having to worry about this. So great point. That'll work out well. Review the new Sony 4K HDR camcorders. Something like those would be great. The only thing that kills me about camcorders these days is they're so expensive compared to what we've been using. You know, most of those decent camcorders, they have a smaller sensor, and they're gonna set you back like $2 grand. For that, you know, you can pick up one of these or all kinds of good stuff, a GH5. So that's one of the reasons I haven't been, doing that. Thoughts on the new Sony, the A7 III is what you're probably talking about. Super stoked. I pre-ordered one. We'll be talking about that a lot, because I think that camera is really going to put the hertz on Panasonic, which is what we're looking at, me through. And yeah, they're really going to give their a run for their money. Canon really needs to wake up, and I think they are. They've had a bunch of statements recently, and the Canon CEOs and different people within Canon have said that they're going to focus on mirrorless. They've just milked their DSLR line for so long, and it makes sense. You know, you already have the bodies, you already have the sensors. If you just recycle that stuff, you know, for a little bit, that makes sense. But stuff like their new 4000D, that's literally just a complete copy of a 8-year-old camera with a plastic lens mount. So they're not innovating at all. Yes, they're gonna have that M50 soon, but you know, that's not an answer to something like an A6500 or what Panasonic is doing. So that's going to change, I think, and it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the lenses, because right now they don't have that many mirrorless lenses. So it's going to be really exciting, but they really better catch up, because Sony is killing it. I mean, obviously Sony is like pedal on the metal, full tilt right now when they're doing stuff like releasing that A7 III, which they didn't really take anything out of it. You know, it has so much. So if that's a sign of what's to come from Sony, then man, it's going to be really, really good for us consumers. And same for Panasonic. You know, they've given us two really, really good options when it comes to video, the GH5S and the GH5. So it's a great time. And maybe in a year or two, maybe by this fall or next spring, we're going to have some really, really good options. I mean, we have great options now, but yo, cinematography database. How are you doing, boss? What is on the top of that camera? Lol. Top of that camera. Not sure what you mean. What is on top of that camera? This camera? Camera back there? We can focus on that, maybe. If you guys want to check out the background a little more. I'm not quite sure what you mean. Yeah, Sigma, man. Mark Webb Sigma is going to town. I'm a little disappointed in their Sony lenses, quote unquote. They literally just stapled an adapter on the back of those, the Sony E-mount lenses that they released. So, you know, I get it though. You know, they've already put so much work into that optical system. So yeah. We got another donation with a Russian name that I cannot read, but I really appreciate it, Madame or Sir. And he or she asks, what do you think about Panasonic 12-35 f2.8 number 2, Mark II, and about the speed booster with the Sigma 18-35? Is it better, speed booster, standard glass? So here's the scoop. Don't worry about the 12-35 Mark II. Just get the cheaper original one. The new one's black, maybe has better weather sealing, and that's about it. There's really not a big difference. The 18-35 is awesome. Excuse me, lunch is really working on me. The 18-35 is great. It's so heavy though. So if you're looking for a little more lightweight setup, then you probably want to skip that. But again, you're gonna get such way more beautiful images if you're looking for shallow depth of field. Okay. Looking down, looking down. Try to catch up. Matt Workman. You going to NAB, Matt? We need to hang out if you are. Are you speaking this year? I know last year you were everywhere. This year I'm not doing any speaking engagements. I'm just chilling. Samantha says, congrats on the baby. How is she doing? She is doing well. We think she might be allergic to dairy, which is a real bummer for her and for my wife. So we're going to have to take a dairy break. But she's healthy, doing great. Somehow she didn't get influenza. Cassie, my wife, had influenza in labor and gave birth with influenza. Baby didn't get it. I got it a couple days later. So, thank goodness, though. Modern Wise, how's it going, man? I watched some of your videos. Aggressive noise reduction artifacts on the A68 III. I haven't really watched any footage, or at least much, because all of it's on YouTube, so it's kind of hard to judge. But we'll see. Gotta run, Bart. He's off to Portugal. Awesome. Have a great trip, Bart. We got a donation from Toby. Awesome. He says, five euros. Thank you very much, sir. He asks, hey, Caleb, are you, oh, he doesn't ask. He says, you are my favorite tech YouTuber. Bought the Young Neo YN600 recommendation and love it. Keep up. Love from Germany. Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, Young Nuo has some really, really sick lights. So, good stuff. No NAB for Matt Workman. New stuff. Gotta do some stuff. New set is lovely. Gotta go. Awesome. Have a good one, Matt. Let's catch up some other time. Be great to chat with you. Is the Rode Video Mic, the original, still worth it today, or should I go with the Rode Video Mic Go? So here's the deal. I'm just going to go for it. I've talked about it a couple times in the past. I don't think anyone should be buying any microphone from Rode when it comes to their video mic line, but the Rode Video Micro. The Rode Video Mic, the original, and the refresh, terrible. The Rode Video Mic Go, not really that good for what it costs. It's not even close to the $100 worth, in my opinion. The Rode Video Micro is really, really good. It's right about where it should be cost-wise. It's built great. It's small. Really, really dig it. The Rode Video Mic Pro, all of the Rode Video Mic Pros are not very good. If you listen to them to any or most other microphones in the same price range, much less cheaper ones, they're just not good. So I would recommend, if you want a small form factor microphone, get the Micro. Check out the review I did recently on a microphone that's $40 and almost better when it comes to loudness. And then if you're in the market for something like a Rode VideoMic Pro, search my channel for the Asden SMX microphones. Those are significantly less expensive, have a lot of the same features of the brand new Pro or the Pro, and sound so much better. So I would skip all Rode microphones when we're talking about the video mics, except for the Rode Video Micro. Really like that microphone. So anyway, I know it's tricky because like everywhere Rode has marketing or people are using them just because that's what everyone uses. But after analyzing them, and I've talked about this in the past, it's just not quite as good as other options out there. Andrew Mayer donates 20 euros. Thank you very much. Andrew, hit me up if you have a question. I'm going to try to catch up here. There he is. Keep producing great content. Awesome. Thanks, man. You're a champ. And then Abraham, $2. Thank you, Abraham. Let me know if you have a question. Appreciate the donations, guys. It's always tickles me. I don't know. Right, so I'm way behind on comments here. Burp, yeah. So what sounds did I make when I ran away from the desk? I saw comments about that, but I realized I had set up a death trap between where I am right now and the office. So I knew that was going to be rough, so I was trying to quickly get out of there. Live color correction. Yeah, we could do that. That's a great idea. Let's schedule that for some time. Anamorphic lenses. Yes, so anamorphic, I take that back. Well, actually, let me grab it real quick. I'm going to grab some anamorphic stuff. Be right back. And I'm back. So, I only own one. Well, there's a couple ways to go about anamorphic. You can buy anamorphic adapters, or you can buy anamorphic lenses and adapt them to other lenses. The whole concept is, or you can buy legit anamorphic lenses, which costs a lot. So these are the two budget options. I'll be doing a video eventually on this and some alternatives. But essentially, you have a taking lens. So this is a 50mm lens. And then you add the anamorphic to the front of it. There's several ways to go. This is a legit projection anamorphic lens. The problem with that is it's pretty affordable, but you have to double focus, meaning you have to focus this to 5 feet and your taking lens to 5 feet. And there's ways to get around that, which we'll talk about. The SLR Magic are kind of my favorites. There's a couple different models out there, but they're adapters you add to the front. This is a huge one, but you can get smaller ones, and they're not as finicky when it comes to focus. So yeah, and there's 2x and 1.33x. We'll talk about all that in the future. If I were just saying out of the gate, what should you look into? Check out the SLR Magic stuff. It's not terribly expensive. It's going to cost you around $500-600 to get into that, but they look good and they're easier to operate. So I'm going to set these down. Ugh. I'll switch to this angle just to talk about what a mess we have here. Usually after I shoot a video, because I'm holding all this stuff, you know, here and switching things, and I try not to move too much, the floor just turns into a nightmare. So it's actually somewhat clean right now. There's all this junk on the carpet back there because I've been playing with the new background and lighting for the new background. So it's like I need to get a vacuum in here. You can see all the sound boards I took down to make room for the lighting up there. So yeah, it's usually a mess in here pretty much 100% of the time. All right, jumping back into the chat, we have a donation from Devin Trent. What's up, Devin? $5, you're a beast. He says, if I shoot at 4K 30 frames per second with the A6500, can I use a video recorder like the Atomos to get 4K 60? I don't understand how it can output 60 frames per second if only receiving 30. Yeah, so you won't be able to do that. With all these recorders, you can only record whatever the HDMI is going to output. So I believe that's only going to be 30 frames per second in 4K from your A60 500. I mean, if you get it to work and it says 60 frames per second, then something funky is going on there and it's faking in between frames. So yeah, thank you for the donation and question. George Gadgets, $5. He says Caleb, or he says Caleb, I love watching all your videos. Keep it up. If you had to pick between GH5 and A7 III for YouTube content creation, which would you go with? That's a tough one. It's a really tough one. I would have to choose between a couple things. With the A7 III, you won't have the flip out screen, so you have to get a monitoring setup. If you're willing to trust its autofocus, then that would be fine. Honestly, I don't trust the camera's autofocus because you never know unless you're able to monitor it and look at, you know, what's going on in front of you. It'll just pulse every once in a while, and that makes me crazy. So, and since I'm catering to people who do this professionally, or at least are really getting into it, that's unacceptable. If I was just a random whatever vlogger, you know, I could go for it. Full frame is going to be great because you can really back it up and get a great shot. And then the reason I like Panasonic a lot is the image quality, 10-bit 422. The stabilization is insane on the GH5. And then the flip out screen, great stuff. And also the phone, the app that you can get, which I use I don't have it hooked up right now, but every time I film, I hook up my phone and I'm able to drag the focus, and it's great. I lock it onto my face and I let it go, and I don't have to worry about focus. If I reposition, I can just drag it over again and we're done. So really, really dig that setup. Yeah, so if I had to choose today, this second, I would choose a GH5. I can work with a smaller sensor, and I love that phone app. That's such a huge thing for us YouTubers, to be able to connect to these different cameras and not have to worry about focus, and be able to see on the phone. No external monitor needed. It's awesome. Great question. Would you ever do a DIY kitchen background? I'm going to start producing a cooking show and wanted your opinion on that. That's a great question. Yeah, if you can, obviously finding a kitchen is great. Another thing you can consider is if you don't need to do a traditional, hey, I'm here cooking and you're looking at me watching me cook, you could always do a talking head like this with a nice kitchen looking background, and then talk about and describe what you're doing, and then show B-roll overlaying that. Just depends on what the final distribution is going to look like. Personally, I probably wouldn't do a kitchen background. If you're interested in that, check out Linus Tech Tips on YouTube. They built this ridiculous set recently, and they put a kitchen in it and talked about that. So good stuff there. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Another $5 donation from Luxury Card Store. $5. Thank you. That means a lot. And he or she asks, how do you record from 2 webcams simultaneously into one laptop at the same time? 2 webcams simultaneously. You probably have to be running 2 different capture software or apps at the same time. I don't know if you're on a PC or an Apple laptop, but something like QuickTime, or just get online and find some webcam recording apps. Excuse me, and you'll have to have 2 different apps probably running at the same time, and that would probably work as long as you have 2 different webcams and keep them separate, but you should be able to do that. Another option is use, if you can control or want to switch back and forth, use OBS, Open Broadcast Software. Is that what that stands for? But OBS is really popular. You could just plug in both of your, kind of like I have right here, you know, you could plug both of these cameras into that if they were webcams, and then in OBS you could switch back and forth, record it, and do all kinds of stuff like that. do split screens, all kinds of cool things. Right. Wide angle lens. Thank you for the kind words. It's Amy, I think. Suttershan, love your reviews and content. Which is the best wide angle lens to film with a GH5 and a Metabones adapter? I have the Sigma 18-35 Art. Many use the Takina. What are your views? Thanks in advance. Wide angle is rough. One lens I'm really digging is... Can I do that right now? Maybe we'll play with some lenses in the future. Have one camera set up just to like swap lenses out. But the Laowa, L-A-O-W-A, I think is how it's spelled. They make a 15mm and a couple other lenses that are even wider. And I really, really like their wide angle lenses. Wide is expensive though. So Takina is probably safe. You might look into or rent the Panasonic, this lens right here. Let me see if I'm zoomed all the way out. Yeah, so that's all the way out. Yeah, 7 to 14mm. Ugh. That's a really wide lens. I'm probably 6-7 feet away from it right now, and I really like that lens. So good range. It's not using a speed booster, but yeah, for what it's worth. Thank you for the donation question. Good stuff. Mic is crashing. Okay, sorry. Looking through our chat here. Let me just grab this thing, bring it closer so I can actually see. Would you recommend small field recorders when with integrated XY microphones? Probably not. I would use the recorders, but I wouldn't use the microphone attachments. Best live ever. Thank you, Audrey. Andrew. Which wide angle lens do you advise on a Canon crop DSLR? That Takina is epic. Takina 11-16 is really, really good. So I would check that out. Canon also makes their EFS stuff. Just Google like Canon EF-S 10mm. They have a couple other ones. Zooms. They're a little slower, but they're more economical. Review the A7S monitor from Newer or Lilliput. Okay. 1080p to 120 video quality on the Sony A7 II. Cool, I'll look it up. Devin Trent, another $2. Know of any cameras that shoot 60 frames per second? 4K under $2,500? Yes, the GH5 from Panasonic. Does great. 4K 60 frames per second. Really, really nice. There's probably some, I think Canon and Sony, maybe Panasonic, make camcorders as well that do that. But I love the GH5, so that'd be a great way to go. Thank you for the donation, Devin. Just make sure I didn't miss anything. Cool. What are your views on the must-have lens for filmmaking? I have the Sigma 18-35. How about Rokinon Cine lens for videos like the 50-85 135? I like a good 50. I feel like they're really cheap and they're very versatile. There's lots of great stuff out there. I love manual glass, and that's one of my favorite things to do is adapt different lenses to different systems. A 35 or a 24 that's fast is really slick. So I just bought or ordered a used Rokinon 24mm f1.5 or t1.5. So I'm excited to play with that. I love that look when you have a wide angle lens that's really fast and you get it kind of close and get that shallow depth of field. That's really, really nice. So yeah, if I were starting over, I think a good zoom for me personally is what I like to start with. Then a 50, maybe a 35, and then maybe an 85. I find I don't use the telephoto stuff as much, but that's me personally. Good question. I'm not going to be able to get through every single one of these. Have I tried a speed booster with the GH5S yet? Yes. So yeah, on Twitter yesterday, I showed some tests I was doing. The GH5S is actually a little closer to APS-C than it is Micro Four Thirds. So I was today, I'm going to have to do it tomorrow. I'm going to compare full frame with the Sony a6500, which is an APS-C sensor, the GH5S with and without a speed booster, and the GH5. But the GH5S, guys, is in between Micro Four Thirds and a crop APS-C sensor. So those who are out there like, I'll never use a Panasonic because it's not, I don't know why I got a southern accent there, because it's not, you know, the sensor's so small. The GH5S is not really going to be that way. And with a speed booster, heck, I mean, it might get closer to larger than a Super 35. So I'm going to check that. I'm really interested to find that out. But yes, the GH5 is in between a Micro Four Thirds and a APS-C. Really, really interesting stuff. Okay, which lens are you using right now to blur the background? I'm using the Panasonic 35 to 100 f2.8. Now there's a new version of it. I don't have the new version. I have the old one. I bought it used for a couple $100. And the reason I'm using that is because I can connect to my phone and change the focus without going near the camera. But it's focal length, I don't know what I'm at right now, but probably 60 millimeter, maybe 70. Daniel Sheffer, keep up the great work. Your content is greatly appreciated. Thank you for the 5 donations, Daniel. That's really kind of you. Appreciate it. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, cool. Right on, guys. Ticking away here. Should I hang out here or should I go back to the office? Your guys' call. If the audio's been being terrible, I can do that. And that should help. What am I running OBS on? Just my computer in the other room. What's the difference between the Metabone's 0.61 and 0.71 for the GH5? So the 0.61 or 64 or whatever it is will give you a wider field of view, whereas the 7.1 isn't quite as wide. The reason there are two different types is on the GH5, and I would imagine the GH5S, the 0.61 is too wide for a lot of lenses. So if you're going to use something like the Sigma 18 to 35, you want the 0.71. Not the 0.61. Screen test of the GH5. We're on. I don't have it anywhere near me right now, but we could totally do that. Let me know, guys, what you want to see here in the studio. We could line a bunch of cameras up. We could do all kinds of fun stuff. I got the Fuji X-H1 in, which I am wildly excited about. I think now I'm more excited about that than the Sony a7 III. But we'll talk about that in the future. Rip. Gonna go down. My thoughts on the Mavic Air. So you guys know Corbin Tyson. He's been doing the gimbals reviews here on the channel. He currently has the DJI Mavic Air. He's in India and he's testing it right now. So when he gets back, unless something goes terribly wrong, we'll have some cool India stuff to check out. But I'm not a big drone guy, but that is one of the few drones where I've been like, I like that. The size, good stuff. Okay. Going down, going down. Best Sony lens on a budget. Depending on how budgety you want to go. The 51.8 used. That 16 to 50 isn't terrible, so I use that one. The kit lens has OIS in it. Thoughts on the Fuji X-H1. Let's go ahead and jump to the other. Stay here, background looks cool. Can you blur the background right now? This is as blurry as I can get the background. Yes, yeah. Try to figure out if I should stay or should I go. Let's move to the other room because I'm going to grab the Fuji real quick and we'll wrap up with that, I think. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the office camera and you'll see me stumble in there. So here we go. Ah! That didn't work out as planned. Okay. We're back. Let me throw some headphones on. Like so. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Right on. So, Fuji X-H1. I always have to check myself right before I say anything. This camera I'm so stoked for this thing. I've been filming a little bit with it. I've been taking photos with it. And I really, really like it. Sure, it's behind, if you're looking at specs, compared to, you know, Sony, Panasonic, yada, yada. But I'll fire it up here. Stabilization isn't as bad as I was expecting. It's not GH5 level, but it's pretty good. Autofocus isn't great, but it looks really natural, oddly enough. So on a Panasonic camera or a camera that doesn't do super good autofocus, it's just like, it's just all over the place. This feels like there's a person messing up if it's not doing well. So yeah, and the shutter sound on this thing, let me switch over to photo mode real quick. Listen to this. Oh, that's the autofocus you hear. Ooh, so nice. One of my favorite things is the build and the grip on this thing. I would give it like 11 out of 10. It's insanely good. I'll show you kind of a top down against my hoodie maybe. Sorry, trying to do this backward. There we go. Huge. You can see how far forward the grip comes. Right here, it's epic. And then on the back here, I'll just do this. Why don't we just do this, Caleb? Okay. Speaking of not great autofocus, there we go. See this little nub? That makes all the difference. When you're holding it, you can see it grabs your thumb perfectly. So this thing just feels so good in the hands, which, you know, a lot of people probably don't care about. I love the analog controls. It's just great to grab this little knob and go from 800 to 1600 ISO. It's really good. And the color, of course, is the big one, right? So Eterna, I believe is what it's called, is the film stock on here, and it works awesome. It looks phenomenal. And I've also been playing with F-Log a little bit. So I'm really stoked about this camera. It feels good. The image is amazing. And I haven't been as excited about other cameras compared to this one. So yeah, and the lenses are balls expensive though. This is the cheaper, I think the cheapest lens I could find, just so I could test autofocus and stabilization with an OIS. But this is the 16 to 50, 3.5 to 5.6 Super EBC XC. Really, really cheap lens, but it's something. So yeah, lenses are expensive. Get a speed booster on this puppy, man, and oh, really lovely. We got another donation from Vitali. By the way, to use Canon AF lens on Sony, yeah, you might not get the same autofocus. I believe there is a new adapter that was recently released. Excuse me for 1 second. Lunch is destroying me here. An adapter that was released that has really quick autofocus, and you can adapt and get good autofocus, but I haven't tested that personally, so I couldn't tell you. Yeah, light meter options. I'm going back up a little bit from Steve. Lumu, do you guys want to see that little iPhone adapter meter here on the channel? Let me know. Maybe we'll check that out. But yeah, that looks really solid, and obviously super minimal. and way more affordable than spending, you know, what a lot of these meters cost. I really like Sekonic stuff, but that looks really slick. Fuji X-H1 versus Sony a6300. I'd get the Fuji. Yeah. Okay to use film camera in 2018? Sure. Can you show your light setup? Right here or out there? I've talked about this setup in a video. If you just search for like YouTube desk setup or something on my channel, you should see it. Will I ever get a cinema camera? If I was just a production freelancer like I was, I would, like I did. I used to have a C100, and I've had other cameras, but since I'm doing this content, I can't afford it. I never ever accept cameras. So certain companies have reached out to me, but I don't like the idea of becoming the Fuji guy, the Canon guy, the Panasonic guy, where you become their light path leaders or whatever their strange titles that they give out. You might get free stuff, but then you're kind of stuck, and I really just, it doesn't feel quite right. So I purchase every camera that I review, but that can get really expensive. And if I did that with cinema cameras, yes, I could rent them, but that would also kind of get expensive. You need a lot of time with those cameras. So for now, at least, I'm going to stick with kind of under $3,500 and under cameras. And I won't be able to get every single one, obviously. But stuff like this, stuff like the GH5, stuff like the Sony a7 III are all doable. You know, I can sell them later once I'm done working with them, maybe every 4 months or so. But yeah, I would love to do that with cinema cameras. And I'm not saying I'll never do that. I would love to, but time and capital, it would get real expensive real quick. YC Imaging, what's up, boss? How you doing, man? I'm super jealous that you got the Aperture MX. I have one of their other lights, but when I saw you had that, I was like, no, I want it. How you doing? All right, moving along here. How to record someone talking when you record sitting and standing. Not sure exactly what you mean. Probably a wireless lav. Just sell them back, dude. Yeah, that's what I usually do. But there's usually a big gap there where I have like 4 or 5 different cameras. And then there's kind of batch, because all these cameras come out in kind of batches, right? So it would still be, I mean, I couldn't afford dropping 15, 20 grand when 2 or 3 cinema cameras come out at the same time. Am I filming with the G7? Yes, this is the G7 with the 14mm f2.5. Yeah, JPH says, good thing my wife doesn't give me a hard time about purchases. If the business starts losing money, I'm sure, you know, that would change. But she's been epic about supporting all that stuff. Yeah, I saw the MX really wondering how much it'll cost. Yeah, me too, Samantha. I'm not sure. Should I miss any comments here? I'd love to get a DSLR that can also film model airplanes flying several hundred feet away. That's a tough one. Yeah, telephoto lenses. Something you could adapt, probably. I would save some money and get something cheap that you could adapt. If you're outside, you don't have to worry about a fast lens. You could get something like an f5.6 or 6.3. Do I still recommend vintage Nikon lenses? Yes, I do. I love, and I'm trying to buy back some of the stuff I sold. and slowly get that back together because it's good stuff. Okay. Where we go. YC imaging, I think within the $3,500 range, is also great for YouTube as well. These are cameras people are actually searching for. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's also the whole audience thing. Not that I'm like trying to reach the masses, but I feel like that price range is nice. And I'll cover stuff cheaper than that too. I'm not only going to have, you know, 2,500 and up, or 2,500 to 3,500, but I feel like that's a good stepping stone right in there. Heck, I got to get that $300 and under video done. What is your colored backlighting right now? Right now I am using Aperture's Mini 20D lights. And you know, I turned off the main big light back there because it's so messy back there. It's unbelievable. So I'm just trying to hide all that. Can I do a video on tripods? I've been meaning to. Tripods are kind of a difficult one to do, but yeah, we've got some coming up. Q Curry, $5 donation. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's very kind of you. And he asks, I have a G85 that I'm ready to sell. Do you know of any platforms that I can post on? Would rather have 2GH5S. eBay, Craigslist, although Craigslist sucks. Sometimes you can get lucky and do something on maybe Twitter, or if there's any kind of local groups, or if you know someone locally that's kind of a big deal, or some kind of photo meetup or video, something like that. That's a good way to go. I would try that at least, because then you don't have to mess with fees and all that stuff. And we got another €5 donation from, man, can I translate that right here? Probably not easy. No, I can't. I can't pronounce your name because I can't read Russian, but thank you for the donation. And the question goes like this. Suggest a budget monitor rig setup for working with a focus puller. 2 people using the same monitor is uncomfortable. Okay. So you need a monitor with HDMI pass-through, so one that has in and out, and then get another monitor. I would probably do something like a 5-inch and a 7-inch combination. Maybe give the 7-inch to the other person. Get a cage. I don't have one right here next to me, but cage for your camera, and then 2 monitor arms off of that would do the trick. That we are not all crowding around the same monitor. That's what I would do. All right, guys. I think we are going to call it. We're running a little over an hour here. Thank you for joining me. Let me know what you guys would like to see in the other studio. For those who missed it, we're going to be rocking some live streams out in the main studio with multicam setups and all that good stuff. You guys are the greatest. It was a really fun one this time. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And I'm going to do my best to be back here next Wednesday, and we've got lots of good videos coming up here on the channel, so stay tuned. Y'all are the best. Have a great evening. I'm going to catch you later. If I can find the outro button.